Hey guys, attorney Walter now. I wanted to go through a couple of things real quick as we're heading directly into the new year. We are now after Christmas. I know my face is a little puffed up. That's because I have a ton of poison ivy going on right here, but I have that special cream, so I'm going to be making it through everything. But here's kind of the bottom line. I know I'm not dressed up like I normally am, and that is because, bottom line, I worked all day outside. I'm totally beat. So I'm going to be doing a couple little quick updates because I saw some things online that bothered me. Some of these YouTube channels are out of control. I understand it makes a lot of money to go ahead and make fourth stimulus videos, but I need to set the record straight so that you guys all understand specifically what's going on with this whole thing. Now, a lot of these YouTube channels are promoting the idea that the new variant, right, on me, is essentially going to create this cascading effect where everybody's going to be able to get a government shutdown, which equates to basically a new stimulus, which goes directly in line with all the things that they've been doing and saying, and they going forward from there. It's not. Let me go right to this article real quick. Defense One. U.S. Army creates single vaccine against all COVID and SARS variants, researchers say. Within weeks, Walter Reed researchers expect to announce that human trials show success against Omicron, or however you want to pronounce it, and even future strains. So basically, this situation is an update on December 22nd. Within weeks, scientists at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research expect to announce that they have developed a vaccine that is effective against COVID-19 and all its variants, even Omicron, or they pronounce it in all these different ways now, as well as previous SARS origin viruses that have killed millions of people worldwide. Awesome. This is incredible. This sounds like the future to maybe even having a cure to something that kills a lot of people. Awesome. The achievement is the result of almost 2 years of work on the virus. The Army lab received its first DNA sequencing of the COVID-19 virus in early 2020. Very early on, Walter Reed's infectious disease branch decided to focus on making a vaccine that would work against not just the existing strain, but all of its potential variants as well. So what does that mean? It means that they're not going to be able to use essentially the whole COVID-19 situation again, or for the shutting down of the government to go ahead and create a new stimulus, etc. So that's not likely to happen. Also, I want to point this out very quickly. Wall Street Journal opinion section came out. Editorial board wrote it December 27, 2021, 6:45 p.m. So literally hours ago, or sorry, yeah, it was hours ago. When President Biden's public utterances make the news, it's sometimes hard to tell whether he's signaling a substantive shift or merely wandering off message. This is true. I know some of you guys are like super into him. It's like Pope Biden. And I know some of you are really Pope Trump. And I get that. And I don't care. It's fine. It's cool. But you have to agree at some point, if you ever watch his entire speech, a lot of them, they do derail, usually at least once. Okay. On a call with governors Monday to discuss the COVID-19 pandemic, this is how Mr. Biden started his remarks. There's no federal solution. Speaking about COVID, this gets solved at the state level. So right off the bat, this is one of those things where it's an intro. Almost certainly and definitively, this intro is about, COVID, how we're going to succeed with the economy, how we're going to grow back to where we were, etc. Because remember, looming along the whole line of our GDP, gross domestic product, being an issue. Howdy, guys. Howdy, Bruce Davis. Cruising Crow. Jessica Dupre, Terry, howdy. Little Picky, Nanny Anderson, Thomas Tomlinson. So here's the deal. China is starting to have a good grip on its GDP being an actual potential competitor to essentially America. And when you have more GDP than America, that means you are officially the country that quasi rules Earth, which is what America has done for a very long time because we were not attacked during World War II on our home soil. Of course, yes, you have, Hawaii, and I understand that, but the mainland was not attacked, which allowed us to basically grow businesses. We didn't have a bunch of destroyed cities. That was a major thing that allowed us to push right to the forefront of that. So the bottom line is, if they shut the government, no social security checks. No, they will. They will still pay out the social security checks, even if they shut it down or have, degradations of so many people being shut down and so many divisions and agencies and yada yada. They never shut down those because there would be pure chaos. So China, even Elon Musk came out and said, hey, China in the not too distant future is going to have a GDP that is about 2 to 3 times the United States. And when China has that, they then have the capacity to go forward and basically, create their own Earth army, which is kind of what America has. We have like, Earth armies. We have bases all over the place. That's why you see all this money going to foreign countries, because we're quasi paying them off to allow our bases to exist there so that we can go ahead and, send our helicopters out, our airplanes out, our jets out whenever we need to make a statement, to make a stand. So, what you need to know is this. Howdy, Princess Elder, Patty Allen. Howdy, howdy. Pamela Kane. Howdy. So here's what you need to know. Going forward, Biden is saying, look, this whole COVID situation, it's got to be fixed at the state level. The states have to get their people on board with basically getting back to work, being healthy, being capable of overcoming this whole thing, etc. That's his whole phrasing here. That's what he's trying to shoot at. I'll read a little bit more about this so you know exactly what they're saying. The Biden administration has also issued broad federal rules to require that tens of millions of workers be vaccinated or regularly tested. The mandate from the Occupational Safety and Health Administration applies to private companies nationwide that have 100 or more employees. Next, the Supreme Court is scheduled to hear arguments over whether this is a lawful use of government power over lower courts, which have split on the question. So basically, what he's saying is it's up to states to get people vaccinated going forward. And if everybody's vaccinated, or a lot of people are vaccinated, and a lot of people aren't getting sick, then you better believe there's not going to be a government shutdown. And since the U.S. Army is now created through the research team a all variant version, an all variant COVID killer, where it kills all the different COVID variants, we're not going to see a government shutdown. If we don't see a government shutdown, so here's what happens, the math behind it. When a government shutdown occurs, there's too many products that are just sitting there on the shelves. And people aren't buying a lot of those products. They might buy some of them, like toilet paper or whatever, but they're not buying a lot of the different products because people are afraid to spend money. And when that happens, that means the products go up in price and the value of the products go down in price because nobody wants them. And the products and the US dollar goes up in price, right? So it's like, staving off potential inflation. If we don't have a government shutdown and we don't see an extreme like that happen, then we're just going to continue on the current pathway of which we are, which is they call it a galloping inflation, which is where we're seeing 10, 20, 30% inflation on things that used to be much cheaper, which unfortunately hurts essentially the retired and the disabled individuals, among some other groups, but at a very, very high level, because the retired and disabled, they're on a constant and consistent income. And as a result of that, they basically get screwed over the most. Like when they're like, hey, you're getting a 5.9 increase, you're not actually getting bleep. All you're getting is the same amount of money to buy the same amount of stuff that you did before, although you're not actually even getting that because the cost of living adjustment at 5.9% is significantly below the consumer price index, which is much higher, which is what you essentially need to go ahead and look at for the realistic percentage of what the price increase actually is. There's another thing too. They're playing with the economy. When you go look at milk, when you go look at eggs, the baseline, like what everybody buys, what everybody needs, the butter, right? Those particular things, they're keeping artificially low compared to other stuff. Like if you need to buy like, a kayak thing or a boat thing or a pool thing or a TV thing, or what, if you needed to buy one of those things are starting to skyrocket in price. The TVs are kept low because the technology is very old now. But a lot of those other things, the price is just skyrocketing, which means that your retirement check and your Social Security check are now worth significantly less. One of the rules that I would have changed if I was in politics is that I would have allowed people to basically earn whatever the hell they could. When they were on retirement, no taxation. Earn whatever they could when they were on disability benefits, no limitations for SSI or SSDI. I would have done that. You know why? It would immediately get people back to work, increase our GDP, and people will then have a future or an option for doing better for themselves. It would have been radical, and it would have also been the right thing to do. But, hey, the people who lead us don't often know the industries that actually fix the. So the point here is this. I want to go through another thing here. This was all the way back in, let's see when they did this, September 30th, 2021, fourth stimulus check. This is from Fox 5 News, so not like Big Fox, but Little Fox. Or maybe it's Fox 45 News, whatever. Some people get up to 7,500. All right, so here's the deal. They wrote an article, which is where they went through each state as to what each state is giving people. Now, Biden said there's no federal solution to this. So a lot of people are not expecting this situation where The federal government's not going to do a fourth stimulus, so what are the states going to do? And even some of these online websites are starting to come out and say that the states releasing funds to people, whether the state made a lot of money, selling something this year and they're trying to give back to the people, whether it's a situation where they're just giving people something to move there, like Vermont needs people to move into their state. What all these online websites are starting to do is they're starting to call the fourth stimulus the stimulus that comes from the states. And now that Biden is saying, hey, there's no federal solution. It's ironic because at the same time, the U.S. Army just created the federal solution, which is basically a variant killer that would essentially, get rid of all the future problems. You have to keep in mind too, when it comes to essentially voting, nobody can be that aloof to not know that there were problems going on throughout this whole, presidential and other smaller ones. In fact, in New York, they had over 100,000 votes that had to be thrown out, which is ironic because it was a Democrat versus Democrat scenario there, which was very unique. And then, of course, New Jersey had its problem with its governor, and it's like they magically found more votes. You know how they always do that stuff. But the point is this: if people are voting more from home and not going to vote in person, then it changes, statistics and how people can do stuff. And if the U.S. Army comes out with a COVID variant and COVID in general killer, then everybody's going to be able to vote kind of like, the way they were. But a lot of people are now used to ordering online, which means they're going to order their votes to come to them. They fill them out, they send them in. So, hey, heaven forbid we work on our voting system, have an actual blockchain-based voting system. But it is what it is there. So let me go through this other thing here. I think this is super important. And I know some of you guys are like, oh no, our voting system is perfect. If you research it for 5 seconds, you would realize that it's archaic. The state-based system has no one watching over it. Literally, a lot of you guys would be surprised about this. There's no group that watches over the states who control the voting system. There's none. The federal government just stepped in and said, well, we want to make new voting requirements. The last group you want in control of the state's voting system would be the federal government. You want essentially a by the people, literally like the people oversee it system that watches over the states. We don't have that. We don't have any of that. It's kind of weird. Normally there's checks and balances, but the checks and balances are all in the state, for the state, by the state, which is terrible. You don't want that. All right, so real quick, I just want to go through these state-based things so you guys know exactly who is giving what, etc. throughout this. This is what people are calling basically what is the fourth stimulus. California, you were able to get up to around $1,100. Maryland, you were able to get up to around $500. Michigan, up to around $4,000. Vermont, up to around $7,500. Now, remember, the Vermont, their fourth stimulus thing was, Vermont will reimburse you up to $7,500 for qualifying moving expenses, but you have to move there to work in certain industries. That was Vermont. New Mexico up to $750, Florida up to $1,000, Georgia, Tennessee, Colorado, Texas up to $1,000. Those were the state-based quasi fourth stimuluses that were being given. So that's my light dying there. But the bottom line is this, and maybe I can make it last a little bit longer because I have to do a quasi setup while I'm up in New Jersey. I want to make this video kind of end relatively quickly with this. It was written 2 days ago, specifically from Marca.com. The virus and the measures imposed on the back of it continue to cause economic issues across the U.S. and the rest of the world, leading governments to offer financial payments that assist individuals and families in difficult times. There are some new stimulus checks, such as the $6,300 check to students in Atlanta, while we outline below the other benefits as well as the upcoming changes to COLA and Medicare. There's the child tax credit that everybody knows about. Continues to highlight IRS tax refunds. IRS tax refunds coming so that, if you do your taxes, you'll be able to get some form of stimulus from those original stimulus details. Specifically here, the fourth stimulus checks, even though a fourth stimulus check from the federal funds is unlikely to arrive, state governments up and down the country are coming up with different ways to offer relief to their citizens. The aid handed out varies from state to state, which is why the links below are there to help you find out what is the current situation in each region and when aid is expected. And then they go through basically each state that you could potentially get something at. I need you guys to realize this. There is no federal fourth stimulus coming out. It's not going to happen. The only way that would happen is if the government shut down private and public industry again. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Now, the states are offering things, but it's almost always definitively not for the disabled and not for the retired. So, unfortunately, the most affected people financially, at least we could put it that way, retired, disabled, are those individuals who are not going to get any fourth stimulus benefit. That's a problem. Now they're giving it to teachers, they're giving it to medical professionals, they're giving it to, law enforcement, things like that. But I need you to understand, with my blinking light, the danger. We keep putting politicians in that are allowing Americans, retired, disabled, to live on maybe a dollar or two more than it takes to survive. And it's only going to get worse. And the problem I foresee with this is that the disabled and the retired are going to get super fed up with it. Please join me as we vote everybody out. We can fix this. We can make this country actually for the people, like those amazing documents first stated. But we cannot do that with the current politicians that we have in. And a lot of you guys are like, no. All of them, including Bernie, all of them have to go. And we need a new plan that supports Americans above all things. It's incredibly important. And I know that's scary to you guys, but that's the reality. And I know, change is scary, but that is the only way that we are going to secure a future where Americans have a standard of living that is not constantly in fear of running out of money to buy the basic necessities needed to exist as a human. In what is currently, although it is questionable now, they're starting to come out with articles saying China may actually have a GDP that competes and is above America, but what is supposed to be the richest country in the world, even though we're, well into 20 to maybe 30 trillion in debt, a large portion of which is to China. So yeah, awesome. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you a little bit later. Please remember to like, subscribe, leave 5-star reviews. I am going to get a small bit of time to work on vote2protectthedisabled.org and spaceconstitution.com, which is going to become a .org. I will catch you a little bit later. How am I doing? I'm actually super tired. I'm super worn out. I'm probably going to do like 1 or 2 videos. What I'm worried about is that when I fell down, I got poison ivy in my mouth. And I used the medicine that's supposed to be topical on the outside on my mouth. So I don't even know how I'm going to be in a couple of days. But bottom line is this. I'm okay for right now. I'm making a couple of videos, but you may not see me for a couple of days as I get through all of that. I do have poison ivy on me, on my wrist and stuff and all that stuff. But for the most part, even though it's on my face, my whole face is covered in it. I've been able to get it so it's not bubbling. So I'm doing okay. I only have a couple more days left here, which means I have to kick it up even more, even though I woke up, the sun came up, I was outside. I cut down over 40, they were already down, but trees into little logs so they could be moved off the path for all the trails. I'm going to do as much as I can. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you a little bit later. Have a wonderful night. I'll probably do about 2 more videos, but I got to go replace this light battery. I'll catch you later. Thanks so much. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.